We are back. Glad to be here this morning. I am RFG substituting for BKP, who was over in Western Pennsylvania. He'll be back Monday on the show. Good morning from the office. We are in downtown, beautiful downtown Blue Ridge this morning. If anybody's not been here and watching the show, we've got a quaint little community up here, a destination community. We're coming into the what I think in my mind is the best season of all up here, and that's fall. Leaves will be changing. Football is being played. There'll be a little crispness in the air. All the orchards are getting ready to bring their apples out. We'll do apple festivals up in Gilmer. Mercier Orchard's a great spot to visit. But we got some other fish to fry this morning, and that is welcome in Bruce back from California. He spent some time out there with some close friends of ours. And Cindy, good to see you again. Actually, I see her every day. Jane is gone with Bill. They're just finishing up their little jaunt through Italy, through Tuscany. They will be back. Delighted to have you both here. How was your trip?
Great.
Good.
California weather was fantastic. We had an excellent time with Howard and Judy, who you know well from high school.
As California residents out there, what is their take on all of the Gavin Newsom executive orders, new laws that he's passing, sanctuary cities, homeless people, needles in the street?
Well, yeah, they're not your typical California liberals. The little tinges there, but
Well, that's why I was wondering.
They're more conservative, but they just shake their head and roll their eyes. They just can't believe some of the stuff that comes out of the state government, the San Francisco government. It's just ludicrous. Some of the things that they decide they need to spend their time on. And I mean, admittedly, they have problems with homeless, and they get into this great debate with the psychologists, about like the homeless. He says, well, you got to treat them. Well, there's no places to treat them, so they just keep them out there, and it's become such a problem that I think it's going to eventually perhaps change some people's mind on who they vote for, but how they deal with it's going to be day to day, put out fires and go from there. So it's a mess. And we didn't go into the city. We were going to go one last weekend, but we opted not to. So didn't really even get in the city. Just went in across the Bay Bridge twice, going one way and coming back, and just dealt with all that miserable traffic. It was horrible.
I think there is some backlash though right now at Gavin Newsom for sure. The problem is that he's got such a strong corrupt political background. How anybody's going to get him or whoever follows him out of there?
You talking about all those families that are controlling California?
Pelosi and Newsom and
Feinstein,
and everything that's gone on out there. I mean, I made a comment one time when I was out there to my daughter to please not vote for him in the last election.
Yeah.
I said, just do me one favor. Two people don't vote for Feinstein and Newsom. Otherwise, actually, I tried to take her absentee ballot and fill it out for her, and she wouldn't let me do it this time. I've done it once before, but she wouldn't let me do it this time.
And that's one of the weird things in California, and starting to spread. The Dems are really pushing ballot harvesting. You can have someone else pick your ballot up for you,
right,
and take it in. And you talk about just open the door to fraud.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and I said those two people, and she had a friend there, and she said, "Oh, everybody loves Gavin Newsom." Why?
Yeah,
he's on his second trophy wife.
But he's destroying the state. Well, the state was pretty destroyed anyway. But he just comes in and keeps picking and tearing, and it's gotten awful, much worse. When I was out there, when Trump was elected in 2016, you didn't see the homelessness out there. You really didn't. I was in L.A. My daughter lives very close to the Grove, for anybody who knows the California area. And it was, I'd get out there and walk to the Grove and walk to the Beverly Center. Southern California. Yeah. Walk to all those places. Now, you almost don't want to walk to those places because all you do is pass homelessness after homelessness after homelessness. It's scary.
Do you think the homeless could be all the liberals that couldn't afford to move to Canada?
That could be. I'm not sure what they are, but let me
They
tell
just
you.
moved out to
But
the
it's
street.
growing.
I want to find Rosie's tent.
It's growing.
Well, it's interesting because one of the reasons we went out there was to do some visits to wineries, and as some people may know, a lot of people probably don't, that Plumpjack and Cade are two big wine names in California. And oh, by the way, they're owned by Gavin Newsom's family.
Really?
Yeah, and he has his own a winery called Odette. So I told Howard, I said, wherever we go, we're not drinking any Odette, and we're not buying any Odette.
There you go. Good.
I did my little thing against
There's our
Gavin.
there's our personal attack, not attack. Anyway.
Our personal opinions
Yeah, personal opinions.
on what's going on in California.
Speaking of
Yeah.
personal opinions, we had a debate last night, or an attempt at a debate by the 10 candidates that qualified under the new Democratic rules. It seemed like they're changing by the day to accommodate whoever they want to have in the debate. Any thoughts on that? I know you were coming home last night. You didn't see
Yeah.
the first part of it.
Right, right.
In my opinion, you didn't miss much. I think that's probably part that I slept through, right?
You did? Yep. Yes, you did.
Well, do you like
watched
that?
it. I
Trade
watched
secrets.
Yeah.
It. I watched it.
Overall take. Any winners, losers?
That's there'll be some at the end, but the overall take is that we have 10 angry people who, and the angriest in the opening statements was Kamala Harris, who literally lambasted Trump. She opened her entire debate with, "Mr. Trump, and I know you're watching," which later Twitter came back and said, no, he's actually not watching. He's doing a speech somewhere on the East Coast. He wasn't watching the debate.
But I'm
so
taping it.
just another one of her lies. But I know you're watching, and let me tell you, and she just absolutely hateful. If you could have seen the look on her face.
Well, the
Just
way she
her
looks at
rhetoric?
the camera and the way she phrases things, I mean, it's like really,
Yeah,
just
but her rhetoric
oily.
was ugly. It was insulting. It made your blood boil, actually. But what's so interesting, it's exactly the same way that she went off after Brett Kavanaugh during the Kavanaugh hearings. She lied. The things she said about Trump, 9 out of 10 of the things she said were lies. She's angry. She's emotional. And then all through the debate, she's one of those people, along with a few others, but especially her, who wants to tell you her story as
Well,
a child.
they all did that, though. They all, like, Julian Castro
Right.
talked about his,
What-
Buttigieg talked about his.
Yeah, what we went through as children, but she's always a victim.
Andrew Yang.
Yeah, but she's always the victim. As evidently a child of color growing up, which is the way she refers to her, not necessarily a child of color, but she knows what racism is.
No, she used
She
the
is, I
black
know.
woman, black
Yeah.
woman.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she knows.
When in
and
fact,
she's,
she is
Yes.
from a Indian mother and a Jamaican father.
Yeah,
Correct?
yeah.
Just for the
They're
record.
calling a Jamaican guy black, though.
Just for the record, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
There's a great debate about that.
Yeah.
but,
Well,
Yeah.
it's the same as Obama having a black father and a white mother.
Yeah.
But the white mother was never acknowledged.
Yeah.
Everything about him was black. Well, no, it wasn't.
Partially.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you used the word emotional with her, and I'm glad as a woman you said that, because if either of us said that with her,
I know, right?
She is,
Yeah, okay.
and that's part of her
you'd be
problem.
attacking women.
Yeah.
She is so angry all the time, and when someone doesn't agree with her, you could tell that just like when she went after Joe Biden in that first debate,
Oh.
she had the whole thing planned.
Mm-hmm.
It was sitting there, no matter what they would have asked her, that would have been her answer.
Yeah.
And her opening statement, I don't know how long she sat and worked on that opening statement, but boy, she was going to get Trump this time.
To me, the guy that always seems angry is that little Bernie Sanders, where you get stoned into the microphone and you...
Yeah, but he was angry last night.
Oh,
He'd
my
turn
goodness.
and point at people, and it's like he's like the mad professor. His hair is wild. He's stuttering. His mouth makes these. I mean, he's an
Then you have Elizabeth Warren, like the wild third grade
Right.
teacher.
She
my
is.
goodness, she's-
Elizabeth
Isn't
Warren
that,
is.
I mean, that's just such a great moniker for her because she does. She seems like she wears a little sweaters and she's always pushing up the sweater, and it's like your third grade teacher.
Right, it's somebody
that is
wound her
wailing
up.
her arms.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, along with
Beto,
Francis,
yeah.
I don't call him Beto anymore because
Yeah.
he's not Beto. His name is Francis.
Francis
and
Robert.
Beto, whose his arm is up here like he's riding a bucking bronco all the
They're all
time.
taking after Bernie because Bernie's always going.
Yeah. But I mean, Beto came out on the stage, and they're all standing out on the stage, smiling and all ready for the debate, and he's waving, and it's like he's like a little kid. This group of people up there. It really, I mean, Twitter was, of course, needless to say, lit up last night. But I mean, and the comments, while not being ugly about people, I mean, the comments were really to the point where everybody was saying, "What's wrong with these people?"
There was an overriding theme, a couple of themes within the debate, one of which dealt with healthcare, and everybody's plan on how they're going to solve healthcare. And they were all, well, I won't. Your take on the healthcare?
Well, the health care, all of them are at some point basically in on the Medicare for all, but it's whether we're going to let you still have your own private insurance or not have your own private insurance. And
Not
that was
Bernie.
the big starting point. And Bernie is Medicare for all, Medicare for all, Medicare for all, and he won't acknowledge. Every person on the stage basically turned at Bernie and said, including the people that originally were with him on the health care for all, and they all kept saying, basically, how are we going to afford this without giving people their own private plans if they want their and they sounded a little bit like 12 years ago with Obama being, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If you like
pretty
your
good.
health care, you can keep your
You
health
like
care.
your plan, you can keep your.
And they're all saying that,
Yeah.
and they all during that health care. It's very interesting. I don't know if this was planned or whatever, but almost to a person, they all thanked Barack Obama for his wonderful health care plan.
I think the winner of the debate in absentia was Obama.
Well-
because they all were singing his praises, and the first time, if you remember, Kamala Harris was blasting him.
Right.
But last night with Kamala Harris, it was like a love fest again
she
with
thanked
Obama.
him. Well, he's one of her big supporters, and he hasn't come out.
Black supporting black.
Exactly. But remember, she was the most beautiful AG
Oh yeah.
in the entire country.
Boy, that got Michelle Michael really
But
in a
What was
knot.
her full name?
but the amazing thing is that they all were, praising Obama for the ACA, and they didn't call it Obamacare. They basically called it the ACA,
The Affordable
and that
Care Act.
He meant
Actually, PPACA.
Well,
Patient
but-
Protection.
Yeah, but he meant to have everybody insured. That was his meaning. Even though that Obamacare has been a failure, and all the things he said about costs going down have skyrocketed and everything else about it, Obama meant. He meant well.
Yeah, that was a bait and switch, though. I mean, just like
Right.
the Green Deal is a bait and switch. I mean, he did that as a bridge to Medicare for
Right,
all.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what they were all praising him about. And then, of course, Joaquin Castro went after Joe Biden because
Julian Castro.
Julian.
Yeah.
It's Julian. Yeah, Joaquin's his
brother.
yeah, his
The
brother.
one with the beard.
Castro. Anyway, he was at the end, but he went after Joe Biden because he was explaining to Joe, which everybody who watched the debate knows that he was explaining to Joe Biden that his plan would give you options. That you could that you didn't
It
have
was
to
the
opt
opt-in
in
versus automatic
right,
norm.
versus automatic. And then he blasted Joe Biden, but saying, "You just said that your plan you had to opt in." Well, no, I didn't. Yes, you did. You can't remember. And he went
Yeah,
after
you
his
forgot
memory.
something you said 2 minutes
Exactly.
ago. He's attacking Joe's memory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
two things stuck out of my mind, and one of them was Biden. Biden's still going to come out on top with this because really no one really just made it to the moon. If you listen to Biden, Biden cannot complete a thought. He will stop midstream and go back and look at it. I'm not picking on him. I'm telling you what the facts are.
Or he'll say something and go, I shouldn't have said that.
I shouldn't have said that,
Yeah.
or I misspoke. And we all misspeak at times, but he'll go back and he'll say, and he'll put a different word in there. He cannot complete a cogent thought and deliver it like he used to be able
He
to.
looks like just a nice guy standing up there trying to defend himself. And that's
Yeah.
what he reminded me of. And he was trying to be very forceful last night. He was really trying to come, now my plan this and my plan that.
He did sound forceful in the first few minutes.
He did.
The other thing that stuck out in my mind, I said there were two, was, and I would never vote for her, but Amy Klobuchar
Right.
was the only one that really understood that if we do Medicare for all, and she brought this out, it will eliminate
140 million. wasn't
thousands
it?
of
I
jobs.
thought she said,
Everything they talk about is going to eliminate jobs.
Well,
I
that's
mean,
true.
Expand all the other things they talk about. It's all going to eliminate jobs.
Yeah,
And
But
again,
then-
they're all talking points.
Right.
And none of them are going to happen.
no.
right.
And then you've got Pete Buttigieg, who tries to be Mr. Nicey. I don't know how many of you ever watched Howdy Doody. You'd have to be my age.
Mr. Rogers.
But truly, he reminds me of Howdy Doody. I mean, he really does. If you
I
puffed up
believe
his
you went
cheeks,
there.
he would be there. But he was the one that tried to talk about it. And then one of them, and I don't remember who it was, said, we need to be more civil. This is what people watching us need to think we're going to be more civil. And I thought, but you're not. They're not.
Well, my sort of takeaways on what I saw, and again, like 2/3 of it, but I mean, it reminded me of the Republicans back in 2016, the lead up, that you had all these people on stage, trying to make themselves memorable, and they know the media wants a sound
Sound
bite or a
bites.
statement
Yeah,
that they can use
yeah.
for the next week.
Right.
And they're trying so hard to do that, and it was just overkill. And with 10 of them, they're every time somebody started speaking, it was like kindergarten. You see 3 hands
Yeah.
go up.
Their hand, yes, they were all that's exactly right. It was so funny to watch those hands going up.
The 4 candidates, 2 at each end, were the ones that were struggling the most because they didn't get the airtime, and they were trying so hard when they did get called on to be relevant. And again, like you said, get that zinger in, get that soundbite in that
Yeah.
everybody will remember and everybody will
I think
talk
Castro
about.
particularly was trying to do
Exactly.
But
and
they
I
didn't
think
answer
he
the
failed
questions half the
miserably.
time.
He never answered any
that.
questions.
No.
I mean, that's the game of these multi-person debates.
Yeah.
You don't have to answer the
No,
question.
all they do is wait for them to get called on. The moderators ask them a question, and then they answer what they want the people to hear.
One of the things that the pundits were all universally the same on was Castro not answering one question. All he did was run his mouth about something else. And
Well, my other takeaway, I agree with that, and I'll come back to this
Sure.
in a minute. But and I agree with you, and I think some other people said that Obama won, because
In absentia.
everybody else, kind of. But they also said Trump won because
Yeah,
it just showed the unelectability of all these.
Trump and Obama were the 2 winners.
Yeah.
Clearly, in my mind, that was going to be my close. Yeah.
Yeah, and Doug Schoen, you probably read the
I
same
did.
article, said that Warren and Biden probably, just sort of
just-
held their own.
Yeah. And they-
Nothing really changed for either of them.
Right.
So-
Exactly.
Elizabeth Warren, though, she just spouts and spouts, and she sounds so hypocritical because she talks about working her way to the top. Yes, after she had lied and lied and lied about her heritage and was given all these opportunities because of her lies to get to where she is today. She talks about, poverty and these people that are doing that.
There
She's
he was,
a millionaire.
pregnant without a job.
Exactly.
So I
Without-
decided to go to law school.
Right. So I decided to go to law school and tell them that I was, half Indian. And thus they moved me into law school much easier. And thus I was able to get a job after law school.
Yeah.
She tells these stories, and I listen to her and I think, lady, you lied your way into. She and Kamala Harris both. Kamala Harris lied her way right up the ladder.
And a few other things.
Lied and other things. I was going to leave that behind. But she lied her way up the ladder. Elizabeth Warren lied her way up the ladder. I'm sorry that Tulsi Gabbard wasn't on there because last debate she was the one that actually spoke the most sensibly about anything.
Tulsi Gabbard came out of that debate, and she was the one that was deemed relevant at that time.
Exactly. She talked
you know,
about relevant things.
Well, just cycling back to Julian Castro, I mean, I saw something this morning with, what's the guy on business, Charles Payne.
Yeah.
And he was talking about racism and all this sort of stuff. I mean, as a black man.
As a black
in
man.
his community and things like that.
And let me tell you, that guy grew up poor.
Yeah, and he referenced some of the things in his childhood, and you know, he said even today, you know, the 90% of the kids arrested for drug possession and things like that are black and Hispanic. He said, you know, no one's talking about that, but he said Julian Castro, in his opinion, he thinks he's maybe the attack dog for, you know, Obama, because he was in the administration and going after Biden the way it is, so that, you know, Kamala Harris might come out. He said he's just being real angry and vicious.
Yeah, that triangle seems.
Yeah. And he really picked on him and said, you know, he's really just being, you know, rude, vicious, and, you know, deliberately trying to, like, just say things that are incite Biden to, you know, either respond or collapse.
Even though
implode.
Biden is sticking with the story that I stick with the 8 years that we were in the administration, and everything that we did with Obama was right on point.
I'm so glad you said that, because after he lied through his teeth he said immigration came up. Were you there when they were talking about immigration?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he said, I'm so proud of the fact that our administration, Obama and I, never separated families or put kids in cages. And I had to lean forward, because if any of you saw the 2014 newspaper article that somebody tried to pass off as under the Trump administration when it was in 2014, and the pictures of kids in cages, trying to say that was Trump when it wasn't. It was the Obama administration. It was under the Obama administration that families started being separated and children started being put in cages. And you know, it's ugly to say it that way, because I don't think they were doing it because they were, you know, trying to say anything bad about it. That's how it was being handled at that point. But it was under the Obama administration that happened.
In the cages, you have to, like, you know, sometimes they're like a really tight shot of a kid behind a chain link fence. And it's in an area as big as we're sitting in.
Yeah.
It's got a chain link fence.
And then all of a sudden it becomes a dog kennel.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're
But when
kids.
he said, we never did that. Now, how a person can stand in front of however many millions, and probably not as many as they'd like, watching that show and saying that, obviously they think we're all
Stupid.
uneducated, ignorant, and don't know when all of that started. It didn't start under the Trump administration. Trump merely is following the laws that he inherited when he came into office. Obama is the one that started separating families, and Trump's the one that gets the blame.
What about
that just amazed me.
Well, the statements, I think, are, you know, aimed at the independents who are still on the fence. They're
of
trying
course,
to get them to, you know,
Trump is going to keep his base.
Yeah,
and there's
demonize Trump and you know, I'm a better person.
right. And they're all trying to say how Trump is bad and how they're going to be able. They are the one candidate who will be able to go in and defeat Trump.
Right.
Beto O'Rourke last night.
Francis.
Just absolutely. I don't know how if he doesn't understand the Second Amendment, doesn't understand the Fourth Amendment, when he comes right out bold-faced and says, we will come and take your AR-15s.
And AK-47.
AK-47s. This guy, I'm telling you, and the moniker of the mantra of the day 2 days ago was weapons of war.
Oh, yes.
If you heard weapons of war once, you heard it 50 times on the fake news mainstream media. Mm-hmm. That was their talking point, weapons of war. They know what weapons of war are compared to a store-bought AR, stands for assault-type rifle, semi-automatic, than the man on the moon.
They do that with every subject. They start talking about climate change. They don't know, you know, methane from, you know, carbon dioxide. I mean, they.
And how long have we been told? In the 1920s, there was a huge push because we only had how many years left to live because of climate and so on. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing how they can, stir up things that have come through the ages, stirring up things.
Well, because people who watch mass media news, that is their source of information in the world. I mean, some of them may Google things and fact check things, but a lot of them just go, "Hey, what? You name the national broadcaster. He said it, so it's got to be true."
Right.
Right.
And they go with that.
No one. I mean, there aren't enough people out there that challenge some of the things that are being said. We've said this 100 times on the show, and I'm going to say it 101st time. We all got our news a long time ago from 3 sources:
Right.
Yeah.
NBC, ABC, and CBS, and we accepted what those Edward R. Murrows and the Huntley and Brinkley were saying as just, oh my gosh, that must be true because they said it.
Walter Cronkite.
Well, they
Walter
actually
Cronkite.
reported news back then.
Yeah. As
I mean,
opposed
they
to
actually
opinion.
reported.
As
now it's
opposed to an
opinion.
Now
opinion
it's opinion.
show.
Yeah, it's
Well-
all bias. It's all opinion on those networks. Though it's just amazing how little. I mean, when you ask somebody, "Have you ever heard of the Steele dossier?" and they say no.
Mueller.
Have you ever heard of Fusion GPS? No.
Come
How?
on.
Yeah.
How does
Yeah.
that happen? I mean, if you even get on the internet, you've got to see something. But I've asked some very intelligent people that question, and they've answered no.
Yeah,
What's the debate schedule now? How many more of these do we have
I'm
to
not
suffer
sure.
through?
I'm not sure.
Exactly.
One thing that ABC needs to do, though,
5 more?
if ABC, if I were Pete Buttigieg, I would ask ABC, please don't put me in that same camera angle with Bernie. You look at that, and it's like Bernie's little puppet that came along with him.
Well, you think if they were fair, they'd put Biden and Warren at the ends. You don't put those other people in the middle in this one.
they're the ones that
change.
are scrambling.
And-
Brian and I talked about that this morning. That picture of Buttigieg and Bernie next to him.
And Bernie's always angry, so
One thing I'd like to see, though, and it'll probably never happen, is to have ABC, NBC, whatever, and maybe when we get to the presidential debates, it might, but to have someone from Fox or someone from, other people there to ask questions on follow-up.
The DNC would
I mean-
wouldn't allow Fox to save their life this time.
Okay,
No.
but I mean,
Yeah.
they ask these questions, and then the candidates give their response, whether it's responding to the question or whatever they want to say.
Yeah.
But then there's no follow-up.
well, that's what they were criticizing George Stephanopoulos, right? Wasn't he on?
Yeah, he
About
was.
the fact that he let these people answer, and if their answers were really wonky, he would not follow up
he
with
wouldn't do a
anything.
follow-up.
Well,
No.
then you'd see like 5 hands go up.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
okay, Mr.
Yeah.
President, Vice President Biden, you get a chance to respond.
Yeah, it's going to
that.
be interesting once they do the the recap and say how many minutes did this person get? How many?
Right.
I'm really
Yeah.
dying to know that because
And when
that's
did they do the cut down from 10 to 6?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll find all that out for you, folks, and deliver it to you. But, I thought it was relevant in this first segment that we did to cover the debate. But there is so much more in the news that happened this week. Notwithstanding that Bolton got fired, McCabe is going to go to jail.
We hope.
We've got what else? We've got climate change. We've got Bolton fired. Pompeo, maybe dual roles. I doubt it. Provoked by what is the Libyan model? The gun control debate. Emotion over intellect. Vaping.
Vaping, that's been
Vaping in the
interesting.
news.
Yeah.
Right.
California passes a bill to allow fair pay for college athletes. I'm telling you, that's going to be a huge deal with the NC2A. We got a lot to talk about in the second segment. I'm glad Bruce is back safely. I'm glad you're here today substituting for Jane. I'm Rick substituting for BKP. So we got a bunch of substitutes here, but we got a couple of regulars, don't we? Anyway, we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to get off the debate and we're going to go to some of these other things in the news that I highlighted just now. Take us to break, Lonnie.